Life have played a huge role in the progress. But Hills Relay for Life is not just a fundraiser, it's about connection. This event provides an opportunity for our community to celebrate cancer survivors, support those currently facing cancer, and acknowledge the dedication of their carers, while also honouring and remembering loved ones lost. It proves that when a community comes together with a shared purpose, a positive, lasting impact can be made. I'm so proud to belong to a community and be part of a council that has stood behind this event since 2001. Hills Relay for Life 2026 will take place from 9 a.m. Saturday the 16th of May to 9 a.m. Sunday the 17th of May. Currently, there are more than 600 participants across 91 teams registered for the 24-hour relay. Generous supporters have raised close to $200,000 with a target of $300,000. I'd love for this to be the biggest turnout for Hills Relay for Life yet, and encourage our residents to head to Castle Showground to take strides towards a cancer-free future. The relay has several meaningful moments our community can take part in, including the opening ceremony, survivors and carers walk, candlelight ceremony, dog morning and closing ceremony. There'll also be entertainment, games, stalls, food and coffee. To register, and if you're in a position to do so to donate, please visit relayforlife.org.au and search for Hills 2026. The funds raised, the progress made and the camaraderie and support Hills Relay for Life has created over the past 25 years is irreplaceable. I'd like to thank all past and current committee members, participants and all those who have donated for making this incredible community-driven event what it is today. Accordingly, I move that this Merrill Minute be received. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for bringing this to the attention of Council and to the community at large. Madam Mayor, I was on Facebook last night and I happened to come across the Hills Relay for Life Facebook page, and they'd recently posted a very scratchy old video from 2001 of the first Relay for Life here in the Hills, and it was great to see just how many people were involved back then. And part of the video expressed the opening of the relay by then Mayor Griffiths, and what I can see from that time is that the event has grown from strength to strength. No doubt all of us here in this chamber have been touched by someone that's been touched by cancer, and not everybody survives, but every bit of money that we can raise through Relay for Life and any sort of cancer charity goes a long way to assisting in research and ultimately lifting the survival rates from cancer. It's amazing to read just how much is raised year on year here in the Hills by a fantastic committee and a great community, and with a target of $300,000, I'm sure they'll get there this year. Can I thank the hard-working committee under the leadership of Chairperson Letha Carruthers for the work that they do, not only for the actual relay walk itself, but the opening movie night, the gala ball, the gift wrapping that they hold at Castle Towers for Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, a whole heap of events. It's a fantastic amount of work that this committee do, and it raises money for such a worthwhile cause here in our community. So thank you to the committee, and thank you, Mayor Byrne, for bringing this to the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Councillor Severaj.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is fantastic to see that this year marks the silver jubilee of Hills Relay for Life. It is remarkable to see that Hills Relay for Life has raised more than $6 million. As a cancer survivor myself, and someone who lost my best man during my wedding, I acknowledge that more progress through research needs to be made, so more people can avail cheaper treatment and are able to detect cancer early and therefore survive. I fully support this mayoral minute.
Thank you, Councillor Severaj. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the mayoral minute. All those in favour say aye. As against, is carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to mayoral minute number 12/2026, acknowledging our SES volunteers for Wear It Orange Wednesday. Councillors, next Wednesday, the 20th of May, is Wear It Orange Wednesday, a national day dedicated to celebrating the incredible contributions of New South Wales State Emergency Services volunteers. For 71 years, ordinary men and women volunteering for SES have stepped up in the face of devastating disasters and shown extraordinary bravery. WOW Day is an opportunity for our community to stop and reflect on the dedication and courage of SES volunteers who are at the forefront of floods, bushfires, storms and other emergencies. The Hills is well known for its generosity with a volunteering rate higher than the state average, and our local SES unit reflects this. The Hills unit is one of the largest volunteer SES units in New South Wales. In 2025, the Hills SES unit responded to a total of 732 calls for assistance, and 703 of these were related to storms. Behind every number is a real situation where members of our community are feeling uncertain in the best case scenario and in crisis in the worst. We are incredibly lucky that our local community has such a strong sense of spirit and drive to help each other, which is reflected in the Hills SES unit. These volunteers have their own lives, their own families and friends, and their own jobs to attend to, and yet they show up at all hours when we need them the most. As our population increases at a rapid rate, the demand for SES services can only grow with it. As a council, we remain committed to advocating to the New South Wales Government for the land for a new and improved SES facility to meet the needs of growing SES operations and our growing community. On behalf of Council and the Hillshire community, I would like to sincerely thank Hills SES unit volunteers and the wider SES volunteer network. The hours you give and your willingness to help others make an immeasurable difference, and we are deeply grateful for all that you do. Accordingly, I move that 1, this Merrill Minute be received, and 2, Council utilises its digital billboards at Memorial Avenue and Windsor Road bridges to thank the SES during National Volunteer Week. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and what a worthwhile Merrill Minute to bring to the attention of our community just how important the SES are to us here in the Hills and across the state. Madam Mayor, the SES are generous people. They're fantastic volunteers, men and women of all ages who get up at times, often in the middle of the night, to throw on an orange overall, a pair of orange overalls, cut up a tree, put a tarp on someone's roof, fill up sandbags, or undertake a rescue in a flood. And the Hills SES alone, over the last 5 years, has attended to 8 major floods of the Hawkesbury River. Just prior to that, we had those waves of storms that came through, terrible hailstorms that, I recall one in Glenhaven in 2017. And there they were, SES were out there cutting up trees, tarping roofs, cleaning up. A fantastic group of people. And as you've said, Madam Mayor, one of the largest units here in the state. We give our thanks to the SES for what they do for us in the community, and I know that when the SES we hosted here an awards ceremony for the SES back in February. It was great to acknowledge the SES and what they do for our community, and some of the members there that have been there for a very long period of time. Not quite the 71 years, but for a very long time here helping in the Hills and volunteering. So I'm glad to see here that we are talking again about the Hills SES new facility, wherever that may end up being, and it's certainly on the radar. So I don't want the SES to think that we've forgotten about that, and we'll continue to advocate where we can and ensure that they have the very best facilities that we can offer to give them their ability to do what they keep doing in our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? No further speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Oh, sorry. Did you want to speak, Councillor Gretseva? My apologies. I didn't see your hand.
Probably I was late. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Amazing motions. I support first and second motion, and I amaze actually the work done by SES in terms of delivery. Total 732 calls for assistance and 700 free for issues related to the storms. So I'm joining to congratulating the SES staff and all the volunteers, and support your advocacy and our advocacy in terms of the new land. And would like to add just additional information. State allocated for new SES headquarters and allocated 27 million to build new 7 headquarters, but unfortunately we're not in the area. And as I said, I'm in support. We should continue advocate that it should be something given to our area as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gretseva. Any further speakers? Now that you're all coming out. Councillor Bonham.
Thanks for your minute, Madam Mayor. Look, you know, Sydney storms are notoriously severe, and chances are with every storm there is a call out for these amazing people, men and women. They come out in the worst possible conditions. It's wet, it's cold, it's dark, And as Councillor Bill was saying, they're there with their chainsaws, chopping up trees, laying tarps. They don't complain. They put this time in over and above their own hours of employment. It doesn't matter what time of the day or night they turn up. So I just want to thank them. As the mayoral minute said, you know, I'd sincerely thank the SES unit volunteers from the Hills and also the wider network. The sacrifices they make are really appreciated. And I thank you also, Madam Mayor, for suggesting that a big thank you goes on the digital billboards. And I really hope that lots and lots of SES volunteers get to see them and feel very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonham. Any further speakers? No further speakers? I'll move the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those against, that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We move to mayoral minute number 13/2026. The New South Wales Government must update our community on the Cherrybrook Precinct rezoning proposal. Councillors, as you're aware, in November last year, the New South Wales Government abandoned its carefully considered and adopted place strategy for the Cherrybrook Precinct, replacing it with an alarming new high-rise, high-density rezoning proposal. The precinct covers 48 hectares around Cherrybrook Metro Station and essentially shared between the Hills and Hornsby local government areas. The Trojan horse seemed to be, let's make it a TOD. This is a TOD in all but name, and in fact some TOD precincts would have significantly fewer homes than what is proposed here. The new proposal put forward 9,320 new dwellings for the precinct, almost triple what was originally proposed. Of these, the number of dwellings in the hillside quadrupled from 1,275 units to approximately 5,000 apartments. It was immediately clear to everyone that the scale of this proposal would place significant strain on existing infrastructure and fail to adequately address safety concerns associated with known landslide risks in the area. Given the magnitude of the changes and the substantial concerns raised by the community, Council formally requested that the government extend the public exhibition period. The need to pause and provide the community with sufficient time to properly review and respond to the proposal was clear, yet Council's pleas fell on deaf ears with no explanation provided. It's been 5 months since the 1-month consultation period closed, and I'm calling on the government to provide an update on the proposed rezoning of Cherrybrook. I understand that the post-exhibition review of submissions takes time, but it's essential that the government confirms that the concerns of residents and council are being thoroughly assessed and that the proposal is being revised to reflect these concerns. Bless you. The previously endorsed Cherrybrook Place strategy was developed over many years, underpinned by detailed technical studies, extensive consultation and comprehensive interagency collaboration. It proposed a balanced outcome of 3,200 high-density apartments. To disregard this work and instead pursue a rezoning that increased density to an extraordinary 9,320 dwellings, with building heights rising from 5 stories to towers of up to 28 stories, is both unjustifiable and deeply concerning. It is little wonder the community is up in arms, as this is a gross overdevelopment of the site. We raised many issues with the government about approving 5,000 apartments on the Hills side of the Cherrybrook border. If these plans go through as originally proposed, we could have people living in buildings up to 19 stories in height on a steep slope. This is a real safety concern that government must take seriously, and I would hope at the very least that the post-exhibition proposal would include comprehensive investigations to address this risk. This is yet another New South Wales Government proposal to accelerate housing without any commitment to the infrastructure to accommodate this supercharged population growth. The original Cherrybrook Place strategy identified the need for at least 1 additional primary school and 1 high school to support the projected 3,200 dwellings. If rezoning plans that triple these projections are to proceed, then the government must identify additional school sites for the precinct. These sites should be within the walkable catchment if it were a true TOD. So too would there be shops to serve users within that walkable catchment. The state seems to think that it's flat. I challenge anyone to walk up Kunara Avenue, pushing a pram, lugging shopping bags as you try and walk to these services. The government must ensure that what's happening in Box Hill is not repeated in Cherrybrook. As reported last Tuesday in the Sydney Morning Herald's Stranded Sydney series, many Box Hill residents are unable to secure places for their children in local public schools. Some are forced to drive 45 minutes just to drop their kids off at school. We hear a lot from this government about rebalancing growth away from Western Sydney, but their actions tell a different story. Time and time again, this government is heaping inner city densities on suburban streets and community designs for low density housing. Castle Road is the main road in that precinct, and it's already bumper to bumper in the morning and afternoon peaks. We've seen what the extra congestion has done to Windsor and Old Windsor Road. Residents are spending more time stuck in traffic and more money on fuel at the expense of time with their families. The New South Wales Government has not officially designed the Cherrybrook Precinct a transport-oriented development stamp, but it has the scale of one. The government is hanging their hat on the metro and expecting that families who move into apartments in metro precincts won't need a car. That shows a complete detachment from reality. The Cherrybrook Metro is not the only piece of infrastructure that these residents will need. Our named Todd precincts, Kellyville and Bella Vista, will face similar infrastructure challenges. The geotech hazards and lack of infrastructure to support the government's overcooked plans for Cherrybrook are real issues council and the community have raised. I'm calling on the New South Wales Government to share their progress on the proposal post-exhibition and to engage with council and our residents on decisions that will have long-term consequences for everyone who calls Cherrybrook home. Accordingly, I move that 1, this mirror minute be received, and 2, council write to the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, the Honourable Paul Scully MP, requesting an update on the New South Wales Government's progress on its rezoning proposal for the Cherrybrook precinct. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it's hard to believe that it's been 5 months and we haven't heard boo as to where this is heading. I'd like to turn councillors' minds back to, and those that were here last term, back to the previous precinct plan that was put forward by the government. That was a precinct plan that took many years to put together. It was done so with consultation with this council and these councillors on a number of occasions. And I recall at an opportunity, I raised the concern at that point about schools. That precinct plan was then adjusted and schools were factored into it. Now we see a complete overcooked proposal where we're not talking about additional schools. We're not talking about additional infrastructure. We're not talking about all those fundamentals that this development or this precinct is going to need to be successful. Madam Mayor, when we debated this last time it came to the chamber, and I believe that was when we were providing a submission on behalf of council, I spoke on the concern I had over infrastructure and the way it was going to be funded. If my memory serves correct, the infrastructure that was going to be provided as part of this precinct was going to be under some form of capped contribution, and I can see that that is going to be another concern for this council, just as Box Hill has been, except I think this will be Box Hill on steroids. Time and time again we see these proposals put to us in council with no or little to no appropriate infrastructure. I don't know what it's going to take for people to realise, those people planning these precincts, that you can't just build your way out of a housing crisis. You can't be just finding places for people to live in without providing infrastructure. We are going to have a significant social issue on our hands, more than we already do, if we don't start getting these precincts correct. As I've expressed before in this chamber, I have grave concerns over the geotechnical risk on the hillside of this precinct. As we've discussed before in this chamber, if that risk is not taken seriously and not addressed seriously, you are going to have substantial safety and landslip concerns on that site. The way it was explained to me that this precinct attempted to address it was that the government had considered it and they considered the view of the developers and they were prepared to listen to the developers and move forward with what they suggested. Now, Madam Mayor, I'm not going to cast aspersions over developers, but I can tell you now, if a developer's proposing a way to sort out a landslip, it's going to be only the best way that is going to suit that particular developer. And that is a fragmented site along there. Those landslip risks need to be addressed holistically with one overarching plan to resolve that issue. You can't be doing it piecemeal, bit here, bit there, as time permits and as developer A decides he's going to start and developer Z at a different point in time. It needs to be addressed properly or you're going to have a serious concern. Madam Mayor, I'm not going to spend any more time on this. We've debated this in the chamber before, but I just find it laughable that the previous precinct plan took many years to put together. This one took just a few months. We as a council and the community at large were given 1 month to respond, and now it's been 5 months of silence. Madam Mayor, I can only hope that 5 months of silence has meant that the government have scrapped this plan, they've gone back to the drawing board and they're coming together with something that's more realistic, something that's going to deliver an outcome that our community are going to be after, and something that gives our community an opportunity to actually live there with the facilities they require, rather than just a box sitting on top of a hill. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? Councillor Severaj.
Thank you. I know that we discussed this Cherrybrook precinct previously, and it was my understanding that the general manager had met with the Department of Planning, and that they had accepted during the discussion that there is indeed a geotechnical issue. Therefore, I'm surprised that there's been no action. Now, I'm not going to comment about the size of the apartments or the dwellings, and as I have stated before, there is a statewide demand because of population growth for increased housing. However, I also admit that as councillors, we have to ensure that as the dwellings increase, that the residents have the sufficient infrastructure, and that is a primary role. So, and also I remember the general manager was asking for a 3 months pause if possible, so the contribution plan can be better structured. I believe at the moment they have an agreement type of clause where some of those contributions are a bit loose, which need to be better structured. So yes, I support the fact that planning department needs to provide an update, and maybe we need to increase our efforts to see what we can do with the planning department to, if they have, after acknowledging the geotechnical issue, what action has been taken, and also to further advocate for better infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor Severaj. Any further speakers? No further. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kretsiva. It's hard because you're the only one sitting on that side. Yep, yep, of course. Councillor Kretsiva.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also in support your motion. This rezoning proposal, it's very concerning me as well, all the risk associated with this proposal. Just staying in support. We need to get update and understand, and we should represent our community and think strategically ahead what risk can come to the future and how we manage, and schools and contributions and everything we already addressed and discussed before. So totally in support of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And the residents of West Bennett Hills are very, very concerned about this. So you're absolutely right, and they're always emailing me asking about it. Councillor Cartwright.
I'm speaking off the cuff here, as I do with your mayoral minutes. I will say that the word abandon, I don't agree with the word abandon. Our government is trying to address the housing shortage, which is a real problem. As we're not Robinson Crusoe here in the hills, the population across Sydney is growing at a staggering rate. But I do, however, agree that given the triple density that's going to occur in Cherrybrook, yes, we have to address the infrastructure. I absolutely agree. And we do need additional schools, or we need to expand the schools, the existing schools that are there. And as you rightly put, that Castle Hill Road is the main road in that precinct. It is bumper to bumper. I have experienced it. It's atrocious, and it's you know, it really tests your nerves each and every morning. So if you know, in order to grow that area around the Todd precinct area, so that people can access the metro, they need to increase also the parking around that metro as well. Absolutely, it has to triple in size, yeah. Otherwise, it's yes, I agree that they're addressing their housing shortage, absolutely, but the infrastructure has to come with it, absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. Any further speakers? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm broadly definitely in support of the motion and most of what's been said. I agree with Councillor Severaj. The geotech issues are very obvious, and I guess my concern is whoever was in charge of that aspect of it, I hope they've been fired or demoted or something, because it was pretty obvious to non-experts here, and they're meant to be experts. And they, apparently this would have happened without our action. It's madness. I'm also very concerned about the lack of schools. I don't think expanding nearby public schools will work, as most of them are a long way away, at John Purchase and things, so it doesn't make sense to me. It really makes sense if we somehow, I don't know, put some of the density on the other spot and built a vertical school next to it. If only government owned land near there, and we did, but then they've sold it. Great. It's just sad that we're going to end up with residents in Cherrybrook living in smaller homes with less services and just a lower amenity than people that have lived in Cherrybrook have enjoyed. A lot of my friends at school lived in Cherrybrook. It was a great place to live, and it feels like it's not going to be as good at the end of all this. In a sense, I definitely agree with your characterisation that a plan that had been worked on for many, many years, it started when I was actually a councillor over at Hornsby, had finally come to fruition. People had worked on it for years. This government's decided this housing crisis is that acute, we've got to do drastic things. But instead of working with the people that made the detailed plan, that knew about it, that could have said things like, hey, geotech over there, big problem, or hey, schools, they seem to have just gone to who's going to give us the most houses, don't care about anything else, and just gone with that. And, it was all rushed through with almost no time for community consultation and things. And the 5-month delay kind of feels like they've looked at it and gone, this is just so bad, we can't do this. Which is good that they're not, or they're rethinking some of it, but it feels like they rushed, but it's actually cost them more time than it would have if they just worked with the people who've been doing the plan all along. So we need more yield, how do we do more yield and try and keep some level of amenity? And a lot of the problems could have been avoided, and we wouldn't be here complaining and pointing out issues, but unfortunately we have to because there are major issues with this. Anyway, hopefully they work with the staff and come up with a better solution and take advice from people that worked on this for many, many years. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Jetty and Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, it feels like the Hillshire Council, the Garden Shire, will soon be labelled as a high-density apartment shire, because I cannot say where this government is heading to, especially when they are increasing the apartments and the density in our shire without even realisation of where they'll send these kids for their schooling, for their sporting commitments. Well, there are people who are very much against the playing fields, but then I always keep thinking, where will these kids go? Where will they spend their afternoon time? Again, will they be on their devices inside the homes, inside their small apartments? Where will they go for recreation? Where will they go for sporting activities, for their health and well-being, and for schooling? So I suppose this government is living in a la-la land where they are just pushing to provide housing to this density and so-called, we are shortage of housing and there are so much of population coming in. But hang on, you will put them into these apartments and that's it? Is that the plan? That's a very thoughtful plan of this government. That's all I can say, when they are actually thinking that we will put the cart before the horse and have no infrastructure in place, no schools, no, SES service. We are still waiting. 8 years, Madam Mayor, probably. They haven't got any...
Close to 10.
Close to 10, thank you very much. So we are waiting for so much, but what they are throwing things down our throat is simply not acceptable. So I congratulate you on your mayoral minute. We need to really scream the loudest to let them hear our voices, and I really implore that our residents understand that this is really not a fair way to move forward for them and for the Shire. Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
Mayor.
Councillor Jetty. And Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I contest one of Councillor Jetty's comments about the Hillshire becoming the high-density apartment shire. From what I can tell from what I'm reading in the media, a lot of developers aren't seeing it viable to build high-density apartments and other residential lots within Sydney at the moment. due to a number of different issues, especially cost. So what this is appearing to be is the high density approval shire, rather than anything actually being delivered. If the government was serious about the housing crisis, they probably would have built the 14,000 homes that are already approved in the shire, rather than having to wait for to process approvals. It might look good to the community that things are being done, but if you're not actually building anything, then realistically it's just an approval and a beating of the chest, rather than anything legitimate for the massive number of people that are looking for a place to live in New South Wales, especially in the Hills Shire. Madam Mayor, there's been a lot of commentary, especially focused around schools, and I just wanted to address my comments around schools as well, especially because there's some comments recently made by the Premier and others. On the 26th of April, at the Tullawong Public School opening, the Premier said that every child in this state deserves access to a world-class public school close to home, which is exactly what we're delivering through new and upgraded schools, as well as more teachers in our classrooms. And the key part is the second part here. For too long, families in Sydney's northwest were promised schools that never came, despite thousands of new homes being built. We are changing that. There's two things about that comment, Madam Mayor. The first one is the reference to despite thousands of new homes being built. I don't think that these will necessarily even be built, but we've gone from 3,000 to 9,000. I think that meets the specific definition of thousands of homes being built and requiring schools. The comment made by the Premier here was they were promised schools that never came. We are changing that. The only change in this is they're not even promising schools. At least the previous government promised the school, and despite all the comments that have been made, whether they delivered or not, or however it worked out, there's no schools even being promised. We saw this challenge with Showground in the Merrill Minute that you brought up in, I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before. No schools are being promised in this area. I then go into the comments from the Deputy Premier Minister for Education and Early Learning, Prue Car. Her comments also were, we inherited an infrastructure backlog that left students crammed into demountables for years. We are hard at work to fix it, school by school, classroom by classroom, and communities like Tullawong are starting to see the results. Madam Mayor, the department's own proposal was that the children living in these 9,320 apartments were going to go to the existing schools in the area. Well, what happens when they can't fit? They sit in demountables, crammed in demountables for years, until somebody decides to fix it. The comments already made so far by the Premier and the Deputy Premier might sound great for Tullawong, but it can be completely inconsistent with what is being proposed as part of this particular item, but also at the same time, we have heard nothing whether this is even going to be progressing or not, as already described earlier, or what the residents should expect, the existing residents should expect in the impact on their children, but also the others that are coming into those 9,000 dwellings. Madam Mayor, I'm extremely concerned about the turbocharging of these proposed high-density TOD development areas. My understanding is we don't have a sufficient school proposed in the TOD for Bella Vista, Kellyville either, or anywhere else where we're meant to be taking this significant level of density. I think that the proposal should be scrapped. I think that they should go back and consider what was already put on the table around the 3,000, and even consider whether that is even viable anymore based on the lack of infrastructure in that area and the impact on the surrounding suburbs, even out to Box Hill, of what it's doing to that particular space. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the Merrill Minute. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, that mayoral minute is carried. Thank you, councillors. Any petitions this evening? No petitions? We move to planning matters. The following items 2 and 3 are defined as planning matters pursuant to Local Government Planning Legislation Amendment Nations Act 2008. We'll go to item 2. I believe Councillor Blue and Councillor Jetty will be leaving the room. They've declared conflicts of interest. We will wait till they leave the room. Item 2, planning proposal and associated development control plan amendments, Norwest Central Employment FP 224. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Cox? Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gressiva. Councillor Cox, do you wish to speak to the motion? Any councillor wish to debate? Councillor Casby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This planning proposal makes absolute sense, and it's really quite urgent because now more than ever it's essential that council try to safeguard this area for future local employment opportunities. With the seemingly singular focus at the moment on residential growth, there is a skewing of development incentives towards building housing, which we do need, but we're seeing that it's really starting to encroach on the areas council has set aside for employment growth. So initiating this planning proposal for the Norwest Central Designated Employment Area as soon as possible is critical. I agree with the well-considered planning priorities in the report, particularly priority 1, which is to plan for sufficient jobs targeted to suit the skills of the workforce. It's so important that we try to cater to the types of employment our residents are skilled in, and with the rapid residential rise, we match this with proportionate growth in local job opportunities. And it's increasingly apparent with our population boom that we need to shift away from using our cars, if at all possible. The provision of jobs close to home will be key to the livability of the hills, or the continued livability of the hills, freeing up the valuable and often stressful time spent commuting to instead spend it with family and other pursuits. I strongly agree with planning priority 12, which encourages greater use of more sustainable and active transport options. We have a world-class metro, which we love, but for it to work efficiently, moving people around the city, we need to create employment destinations such as this so that people are actually getting off the metro at the showground in the morning instead of using it to head all the way into Chatswood or the city. And I support the direction of this planning proposal in encouraging more people not to use their private cars and instead use the metro, take a bus, ride a bike or walk. It does make sense to put both high-density residential and high-density employment around major transport hubs where there is a high-frequency, reliable public transport and a good network of safe, accessible and attractive walking and cycle paths. But I think we can see it's increasingly important with the current residential development boom that we actively and strategically protect land for certain uses, in this case employment. So I thank council officers for their focus on strategic planning for the medium and long term to achieve good employment outcomes in this designated area, despite the current strong push and developer incentives for residential development. It's absolutely vital that council continue to preserve this scarce employment land, put in place a clear and certain land use planning framework and remove the barriers to future employment development in this particular area. With only 8% of urban land zoned for development solely for employment and services in the hills and 30% within the Norwest Strategic Centre designated specifically for employment, it makes this planning proposal as the next step in implementing council's vision and objectives in the Norwest Precinct Plan all the more vital. So I'll definitely be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Casby. Any further speakers? Councillor Jackson.
I'll keep it brief on this one, Madam Mayor. I think this is actually quite urgent based on what we've seen more recently with the HDA proposals around state significant developments. Before we lose all of our employment locations, it's definitely preferred to be able to lock in as much as we can for employment. I know that we've had many discussions about getting the right balance without wanting areas to be dead after a particular hour, and being able to have some nightlife and other opportunities for residents to do things at more broader hours. But yeah, this can't come quick enough, and I hope that it is ultimately supported in order for us to be able to provide the employment space for our residents to enjoy. Otherwise, it's guaranteed that they will go into places like the city and other areas, Chatswood and Macquarie and all those other places to be able to engage in their employment. So fingers crossed this gets as far as it needs to go to support employment within the Hills. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further speakers? No further speakers? Councillor Cox, you right to reply?
Madam Mayor, I was going to rise just to say that I'm always concerned when Councillor Casby gets up to enthusiastically agree with me, but in this case I think she's on the money. I did also want to raise the point that Councillor Jackson's brought up about the HDAs, and to the extent this slows them down on encroaching on employment land, all the better. But hopefully this will help with that, because it's so important to have that land here. And similarly, I guess, referencing our previous motion around Cherrybrook, wouldn't it be great if kids could walk to school instead of being driven there? But anyway, this is going backwards. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. We're on item 2, planning proposal and associated development control plan amendments, Norwest Central Employment. Got a motion moved by Councillor Cox, seconded by Councillor Gretseva. The recommendation contained in the report be adopted. Councillors, a planning matter, so you can vote on your keypads, please. All votes are in. That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. For the tape recording proceedings of tonight's meeting, I will read the names of those who voted for. Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cartwright, Councillor Cox, Councillor Casby, Councillor Gretseva, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Severage, and myself, Mayor Dr. Byrne. Thank you, councillors. Can we ask Councillor Blue and Councillor Jetty to rejoin us, please? Thank you. We now move to item 3, post-exhibition Gables Small Lot Housing 10/2025/PLP. Councillors, I'm in your hands. Do I have a motion? Councillor Blue, wish to move it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as per the business paper.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cox. Councillor Blue, you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, look, just briefly, Madam Mayor. One thing I'd like to clarify here, and it was quite evident by the submissions received, which were all in objection. This motion isn't actually about decreasing the size of the parcels of land here in the Gables. Whether we like it or not, they're already zoned for the size that is in the business paper, and I don't have it in front of me. However, what this motion calls for this evening is some more flexibility on what can be built within that building envelope plan. Rather than seeing a developer have a parcel of land which is broken up into X number of blocks and every house looks the same, this gives an opportunity for a little bit more flexibility in these small lot construction. So I think I just wanted to make that clear, that it's not about reducing the parcel size or increasing the yield above already what has been approved. So I'm not going to say any more on that. I just think that was to make that clear. This, from what it says in the business paper, is a more realistic way and will achieve a better outcome for the construction and for the community by having some diversity, if you like, in what's going to be constructed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? Councillor Severage.
When I initially had a read, I was not very happy with the small lot sizes of 300 metres. However, after going into more detail, as Councillor Blue mentioned, and it says very clearly here, and the current control lot sizes 300 to 400 metres can only be approved under clause 4.1b, with both the subdivision and dwelling design are approved concurrently. So basically, the proponent is wanting to simplify the planning process. So I know that the train has already left the station, so therefore I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Savaraj. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Blue, your right of reply.
I'll waive that, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. On item 3, post-exhibition Gable small lot housing. Got a motion moved by Councillor Blue and seconded by Councillor Cox. The recommendation contained in the report be adopted. Councillors, it's a planning matter, so you can vote on your keypads, please. All votes are in. That motion is carried, but for the tape recording and proceedings, I'll read the names of councillors voted for. Councillor Blue, Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cartwright, Councillor Cox, Councillor Casby, Councillor Graziva, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Jetty, Councillor Raj, and myself, Mayor Dr. Byrne. We know councillors voting against. Thank you, councillors. We now move to call the agenda. I'll read out each item one by one. If you wish to speak to that item or pull it, please let me know. Item 4, transport orientated development, community infrastructure program, applications round 1, Councillor Jetty. Item 5. Oh, geez, you're quick tonight. Minister for Lands and Property consent to adopt generic plan and management Crown Community Land was Councillor Cox. Item 6, Councillor Jackson, Hillshire Plan 2025/26, review number 3. And item 7, property dealings relating to development matters. No one wants to pull it just for fun? No? No takers? Thank you, councillors. Can I have a motion to move item 7? Moved by Councillor Cox, seconded by Councillor Jetty. Is there any debate on that item? No debate. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Those against? The recommendation in the business paper, item 7, is now the recommendation of this council. And we now go back to item 4, transit orientated development community infrastructure program applications round 1. Councillor Jetty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the recommendation as in the business paper,
Thank you.
please.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Bonham. Councillor Jetty, you wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this is sort of a good, sweet news, I would say. Hillshire Council getting some money because of the Todd precinct. But may I also add a bit of an edge to it that what we have not been given. So there is an amount where people must be very happy and pleased. Oh yes, 7.1 million approximately. Yep, that's the one. But it also has a word before it. The Hills is limited to 7.1 million. Whereas what we are looking at in the further business paper, when you look at it, you see the other precincts outside the Hillshire, they have been given a staggering amount, much more than what we have been given. At this stage, I would like to say, why the disparity? Why the differentiation between our council and the others? But I would like to hear what my fellow councillors would have to say and then speak further with your permission, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jetty. Councillor Savaraj.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I note the report before council today is seeking approval to submit 5 nominations under the Trans-Oriented Development Community Infrastructure Program for active transport projects within the Bella Vista and Kellyville precincts. Importantly, 4 of these 5 projects fall within the West Ward, and they respond directly to the significant growth pressures arising from the state government's recent rezoning of Bella Vista and Kellyville station precincts under the transport-oriented development. The scale of change in these areas is substantial, with capacity for tens of thousands of additional dwellings approved in close proximity to our metro stations. It is therefore entirely appropriate that we are seeking to secure external funding to deliver the pedestrian and cycle infrastructure required to support that growth, improve safety, and ensure residents can access key transport nodes without being overly dependent on private vehicles. In that regard, I support Council's proactive approach in submitting these applications. These projects are practical, necessary, and well aligned with state policy objectives around active transport, station accessibility, and reducing congestion on key arterial corridors such as Balmoral Road, Norris Boulevard, and surroundings. However, I also want to make a broader observation. While these projects appropriately focus on active transport connectivity, which is the scope of this funding program, I do believe Council needs to continue broadening its view of what community infrastructure means in growth precincts like these. Active transport is essential but so too is passive and preventative health infrastructure. As we plan for rapidly growing populations in the West Ward, there is a strong opportunity to better integrate features such as outdoor fitness equipment, age-friendly exercise spaces, and multi-generational recreation areas within our park network, as Campbelltown Council and Parramatta Council have already done. These are relatively low-cost interventions compared to major civil works, yet they deliver meaningful long-term benefits in terms of health outcomes, social connection, and overall livability. May I point that the demography of the hills is changing, getting a younger population, people are working from home, so these kind of active fitness equipment and so on will actually benefit changing demography. In that sense, I would encourage council officers to consider how future rounds of funding, particularly under programs such as the Parks for People initiative, can complement what we are delivering today, so that we are not only moving people through our precincts safely, but also supporting them to live healthier lives within them. In closing, I support the recommendations in this report and the submissions of these projects for state funding. I also look forward to continued work ensuring that as our West Ward grows, we are delivering not just infrastructure for movement, but infrastructure for well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Severaj. Any further speakers? Councillor Grotsever?
I also support the recommendation tonight, and I want to begin by thanking our staff for significant work that has gone into preparing those funding application. The guidelines for this program are highly restrictive, and our staff have done excellent job identifying the project that actually meets the government criteria, while also delivering real benefits for our community. This report about making sure that infrastructure keep pace with the growth, and I welcome the fact that state government has committed total 520 million toward infrastructure across 7 precincts. The funding being delivered through 300 million under Parks for People program and 220 million under community infrastructure program, where we getting 4.5 million for Bella Vista and 2.6 for Kellyville. Importantly, this submission for current funding opportunity is only for round 1 of total community infrastructure program. So this first round, total 7 million for Bella Vista and Kellyville combined. The project proposed a practical, deliverable, and important local connections, including Samantha Raleigh Drive shared path, Arnold Avenue shared path, Balmoral Road connections, Norwest Boulevard pedestrian and cycle crossing, active transport infrastructure linked to Cadet Creek Reserve Stage 2. This project will improve safety, strengthen walking and cycling connections to the metro stations, and improve access to roads, schools, and local centers. They are exactly the sort of projects growing for community needs. I also think this report demonstrates importance of partnership between local and state government. We are doing its part by planning ahead, identifying priorities, and being ready to deliver projects quickly. And I welcome state government contributions through those funding program. So tonight, recommendation position council strongly to secure funding now, while contributing to work constructively with the state government into the future. Again, I thank staff for quality of their work in this report, and I fully support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Casby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to start with a question, if that's okay, through you to the General Manager. Just regarding nomination 4 for the Norwest Boulevard on page 244, the report says this is an interim measure to be put in place before this intersection is upgraded and fully signalised. I'm just thinking 1.6 million seems a lot to spend on a temporary measure. Are you able to give us some idea of the expected timeframe for the state government to complete these upgrades, and just give us some further confidence that this particular project will be well utilised, given there's an existing underpass a short distance away? Thanks.
Through to you, Mr Edgar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question. Ideally, the intersection improvement would be at the intersection, but because it's a roundabout, you can't have the roundabout blocked for pedestrians, hence it has to move further up. There is a pedestrian link further up that goes under the road, but it's around about 650 metres travel, not really well utilised. If you see pedestrians moving from, say, the Farm Park side to Lexington Avenue side, they tend to play the Russian roulette, if I can put it that way, closer to the roundabout. We think this is a good solution for those folk, given that there's pedestrian generators both sides of the precinct. There has been some design work done by Transport for New South Wales on the intersection works. They are fairly substantial, and there's some fairly significant infrastructure in the vicinities. So if you remember, if you've been at Bella Vista Farm Park, you might recall seeing the Sydney water towers that provide water to the area. Well, those mains run in very close proximity to the road and the intersection. So this is a number of years ago. The number is between 90 and 100 million. Probably north of that now, if you think about the price escalation from that, when those estimates might have been done. So my feeling is there'll be priorities of government that probably come in before this, so it's not prioritised. Certainly there's been some design work done, but not prioritised. And I'd imagine priorities around Old Windsor Road and Windsor Road will become more pressing. So there's nothing to suggest to me that any time soon would these works be redundant. And certainly once the intersection is upgraded, the pedestrian link would be replaced at or nearer to the intersection. So we think it's a project that meets the criteria, bearing in mind the criteria is pretty narrow, as you can see in the report. Doesn't cover the things that Councillor Selvaraj was talking about. It really is only about kind of footpath intersections, crossings. This isn't in any, has no funding source, so this is a welcome funding source. We have actually tried to balance the projects in here, including this one around, well, things we think developers are going to fund, or there's VPAs in place. Let's not do those. Let's use the money where there are problems waiting for a solution. There are other problems waiting for a solution on the network in the report, and we'll look at that for future rounds. Some of that's going to depend on how developments progress, and therefore where the way forward will be around creek crossings and things like that. So we think this hits the criteria. We'll get funding for these. They're deliverable in the time frame that we've got, and will provide a benefit. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Councillor Casby.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That was a very detailed answer. Yeah, absolutely it does. And look, I support the motion, and I welcome the funding from the state government. And yeah, the criteria is quite restrictive, but it's still very important infrastructure, particularly if we want to reduce traffic congestion and improve walkability and cyclability and accessibility for people using mobility devices or prams, etc., of these TOD precincts. As the report says, the list of criteria for eligible projects is extremely specific. Would be lovely to have exercise equipment, but yeah, I think we're a bit constrained. So I thank council officers again for putting forward these 5 nominated projects that have obviously been carefully planned, and they comply with the criteria. And they do address existing safety and connectivity issues. And I think these projects will be very much welcomed and well utilised by our residents. Yeah, thank you for answering my question around option 4. I did think it was a lot of money for an interim measure, but given there's no certainty around the upgrade, whether it's going to happen or the time frame, that we can expect this intersection on Norwest Boulevard to be fully signalised by the state government, possibly out past 10, even 50 years.
Who knows?
then I agree that this would be a good opportunity to make the crossing this road much safer and convenient for cyclists and pedestrians. So thank you to council officers for this work, and I hope that these nominations are successful. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Casby. Any further speakers? Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly on the topic of infrastructure, and whilst I acknowledge the criteria for this round was very specific, and we've done well to come up with some programs that are hopefully going to be successful in that round, I do note that this proposal, or this precinct, if you like, the Todd precincts, are going to need a lot more than a couple of bike paths. And I'm not going to read them all out, but I turn council's attention to roads and traffic on page 234, on page 235, open space, education and community facilities. We're a long way off addressing the infrastructure requirement, and I'll repeat that, a long way off. Bike paths are great, and I agree with Councillor Casby, they're much needed in a precinct like this, get people moving around the precinct. But they're just one small part of what's going to be required here. So whilst this is round one, I hope to see a round two and many other rounds into the future that address the rest of the infrastructure that's going to be needed to service the new community that are moving in here at a Mammoth precinct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Jetty, you're right to reply.
That the selection criteria has been very restrictive, but this restriction is uncalled for, especially when we see that the number of apartments, number of dwellings that have been considered in these two precincts in Kellyville and Bella Vista have been way less than what originally they have been approved for. So if we are looking at dwelling numbers of something around 11,000 plus in Kellyville and then additional in Bella Vista, if I combine both of them, you're looking at nearly 20,000 plus dwellings. And whereas what I see numbers over here is 2,900 and 1,700, whereas when I compare this to another council where they are being given handouts practically like 21 million plus, and that's where my concern is raised, that why is it that this selection criteria does not extend itself to the much needed, or and as I am aware that there were more applications put in. Yes, we got approval for these 4 or 5 proposals, but what happened to the others? Why is it that we feel that being treated like a second category citizen when it comes to the point that they had so much money to give away, but that has been dispersed further into other shires, other councils? I would leave that at that, Madam Mayor, but we cannot disregard that we are under the burden of approved dwelling numbers in Kellyville and in Bella Vista. Where will those people have their infrastructure given to them from? How will we meet that infrastructure need? Where will we get that dollar value taken care of? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jetty. On item 4, Transit Orientated Development Community Infrastructure Program applications. Round 1, we've got a motion moved by Councillor Jetty and seconded by Councillor Bonham. The recommendation contained in the report be adopted. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against? The ayes have it. It's carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 5. Minister for Lands and Property consent to adopt generic plan of management, Crown Community Land. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Yes, okay. Councillor Blue, you wish to second? Councillor Cox, you wish to speak to your motion?
Of course. Yeah, this is a very self-explanatory motion and for a very clear purpose, responding to a very clear requirement of the state government, and I'm sure we won't get pulled into any vortexes talking about other issues. I hope that anyway. I would like to amend the, I did want to amend the motion slightly, Madam Mayor, to include a second point.
All right.
Just to write to the Minister and thank him for approving the plan of management. That's the one. So the Mayor write to the Minister of Lands, Property and the Minister for Multiculturalism, Minister for Sport and Minister for Jobs and Tourism, Honourable Steve Camp MP, expressing Council's appreciation for this effort to have the plan of management expedited after months of delay.
Thank you. Go to the second. Are you happy with that? Thank you, Councillor Blue. Councillor Cock, you should continue.
Yes, please, thank you.
Go on.
Yeah, almost forgot my second point. As I was going to say, this plan of management, regrettably, it's taken some time, but it's one small straw that was grasped at in the great Fred Catterson saga. I'm very appreciative that the Minister saw through it all and has given his consent. I'd also like to thank the staff that have been working away at this, as I believe the requirement for the thing came in that change in 2018, so coming up on 10 years. It's been heavily delayed, all for good reasons. Anyway, I think the reasons that this has gone through are quite obvious. I'm very appreciative to the Minister. I'm sure that we'll have some lengthy debate now about the Fred Catterson vortex, and that these changes, which again are responding to some the changes in 2018, somehow are all part of some big grand conspiracy around Fred Catterson. Anyway, I look forward to the debate, or hope there is none. Anyway, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Any further speakers? No further speakers? Great.
Madam Mayor, I firstly want to ask this question, just for confirmation. Is a plan of management, I want to ask the question actually through you to the General Manager, please. Is a plan of management required for a council to manage Crown land? Through you, Ms Edgar.
Interesting way it's not an easy question to answer, no until you have one, but in giving land to council, the department asks councils to not include it in their generic plans of management they already have, but to separate it and put it into one that specifically relates to Crown lands. That's why this is here and why it's now finalised. It was given a time period early on. I think the transfer was around 2019. Could be slightly out with the dates. With COVID, as you can see by the timeline in here, it lost priority even with Crown lands. It's now since been prioritised, and hence ours has been now done. So, no, but yes, if that makes sense.
So, given that it's yes, I've got another question, sorry,
Sure.
To the General Manager, please. So under Section 44 of the Local Government Act 1993, which applies to all council managed Crown land via the Crown Land Management Act 2016, there is a strict freeze on changing the land before a plan is adopted. It says, pending the adoption of a plan of management for community land, the nature and use of the land must not be changed. So how is it that the tree clearing and construction work was able to begin in Fred Catterson Reserve before the plan of management was approved by the Minister, given adoption is a two-way process?
Madam Mayor, the short answer to that is that we are legally entitled, and the council has advice to that effect that it could, and it did, and that obviously has been tested even with government, and this is where we've landed. So our position is we've complied with the law all the way along.
Okay. I just want to say that I will not be supporting this draft generic plan of management, and for the simple reason that I'm just deeply disillusioned by the way the Fred Catterson Reserve process was handled. The community was ignored, transparency was lacking, and construction commenced before the plan of management was even approved. That is simply unacceptable, and it's been an absolute shocker of a process.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. Councillor Blue, here we go.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you very much. I wasn't going to say much here tonight, but I'm not going to have councillors get up and call this whole process a shambles and cast aspersions over the way we do things here at the Hillshire Council. We are best practice and we lead by example. Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Cartwright is utterly confused about what the plan of management here is tonight. This plan of management was instigated by a process from the Crown many years ago. There was funding put into a pool of money, and we received some of that to undertake the plan of management. The plan of management was submitted to the government after the the exhibition period on the 14th of October. It's taken a bit of time for the government to come back, but Madam Mayor, I will just refer to you the points that the government had a very small concern with, and just bear with me while I get the letter. Remove purpose of public recreation and replace with the word Boy Scouts. Recategorise a CGU and remove one lot from a map and include the word park in a table. Madam Mayor, I don't think there was a lot of issue with this plan of management. I think council actually put together quite a good document that the government clearly had no issue with. So for Councillor Cartwright to think this was such a mistake and there was a problem and the plan was no good and the shambles, I think the word was, I think, as I said, I think Councillor Cartwright is utterly confused with this. Madam Mayor, the plan of management has absolutely nothing to do with supposed problems with community consultation. We have followed the advice that we were provided. We have followed the request by the government to produce a plan of management. And in regard to Councillor Cartwright's comment around section 44 of the Act, we're actually not changing the use, Madam Mayor. That site has been, since it was cleared back in the whenever, for a purpose of a pony club, was a sports ground. Madam Mayor, it is still a sports ground and it will always remain a sports ground. So to say that we needed to put a different plan of management in place if we're changing the use, we're not changing the use. And removing some trees is not the change of a use. It's still a sports ground. Madam Mayor, I think some councillors here need to really read the information that's put in front of us, actually take the time to understand and not listen to others that seem to claim that they know all about this. Madam Mayor, we as councillors are here to make determinations and decisions based on what's presented in front of us. We're entitled to ask questions and we're also entitled to make informed decisions. And that's what we should be doing here. The information that is presented in front of us is very clear here tonight, and I could not see why anyone would not support a plan of management given the government and the Honourable Steve Camper has done this. And Madam Mayor, when you do write to the Honourable Minister Camper and thank him for expediting and approving this plan, I'd invite you to ask him to come out to the hills and just see the requirement we need for sporting fields. Show him Fred Caterson and what we're doing there. And I think Councillor Cartwright should maybe talk to the Minister and hear his views on sports in the hills. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Casby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a couple of questions. And this is honestly for clarity because I just feel like I don't completely understand yet. Given that Fred Caterson Reserve contains critically endangered ecological communities and habitat for threatened species like the glossy black cockatoo, can you explain how this generic plan of management framework complies with Section 36 of the Local Government Act 1993, which mandates a site-specific plan of management for land containing such significant natural features?
Mr. Edgar.
Madam Mayor, in short, I don't think it actually meets the circumstances why it requires one. The council can have one. And I would just observe this process has been going on for a number of years. The Crown fully understood that this was part of the generic plan of management, and at no stage has that query or that concern been raised. Okay. They think, like we think, that the site in the fullness of time, because of the range of uses, the range of users, the range of leases, will need a site-specific plan of management. And I'd imagine that would be the next logical step in time for us for that particular site. But at the moment, it's been approved to be part of the generic plan of management for Crown Lands.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Councillor Casby.
just responding to something Councillor Blue just raised, another question, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager.
To me.
So, yeah, sorry. So the land was gazetted to Council from Crown Lands in 2020, January, I think. Did it then fall under a plan of management from Council? It was automatically fell into a sports ground category from there, did it?
So, given proceedings are afoot, I'll answer it that I believe we've acted in accordance with the way the land has been gazetted to us to manage, not just in 2020 or 2021, but even originally.
Thank you.
And one last question.
Councillor Casby.
Thank you. The report says under the Local Government Act legislation, plans of management are prepared in consultation with the community. And it touches on this on page 346, but could you provide a bit more information about how the community were involved and where their input has been incorporated?
James Edgar.
Madam Mayor, I think I could observe that this has come back after we've already approved it, after considering the community consultation last year. So this is back from the Minister and the Crown to adopt what we've adopted last year. That report, which I recall would be, I think, the 14th of October 2025, considered all of the submissions that were made in relation to the plan of management.
Okay.
This particular decision isn't the subject of community consultation. So it's
No,
the
it's
Crown
just the plan.
authorising the council to adopt
Yeah.
this
Oh,
plan.
okay. My question was more to the plan itself, but I don't know if that...
I think that would be instructed by reading the report of the 14th of October 2025 where it dealt with submissions.
Thank you.
I just like...
Councillor Casby.
Yep. Thank you for answering all my questions. That's helpful. Look, I still stand by my comments I made in debate in October last year, and I continue to hold the belief that this generic plan of management is deficient in some areas. Yes, it would seem to appear now that it's good enough for the state government, but when I still compare it to those of other councils, on behalf of our residents, I still believe that we can do better. And I tend to agree with the words of a very experienced local government expert, which was, the document's brevity and lack of specific management processes suggest it is an administrative attempt to meet compliance rather than a genuine planning tool to guide management of public land for the community. A prime example of this is the lack of the performance targets, specific actions and KPIs that tell us how we're going to measure our performance. There's nothing really that shows how the objectives of the plan are going to be achieved through a list of measurable outcomes. And this is one of the main purposes of a plan of management, to clearly show the community and guide council staff in how we intend to manage community Crown land. And where are our proactive strategies for managing the very valuable ecological biodiversity that we are caretakers for on this community land? It's obviously very, very important to our residents. We can see that not only from the submissions, but from the over 50% of our residents who said that looking after the environment was the most important concern for them in the hills. While the plan acknowledges the presence of threatened species, it still does lack the specific mandated actions to protect them or their habitats. We're still deferring specific management to future site-specific plans and creating a management vacuum in the interim. Similarly, there are no specific actions listed for cultural heritage conservation. We heard debate last October about the need for a plan of management. I think Councillor Gretsiva spoke to expressly authorise the purpose for which leases and licences can be granted over community land, which is important for transparency and to make sure loopholes don't exist for discretionary decision making. While this plan claims to expressly authorise leases, it does so through broad categories rather than specific site-based permission, and it defers the details to internal registers and consistency tests, and it doesn't offer the level of transparency and certainty our community expects. It still doesn't clearly describe all of the allowable purposes for which current or future leases, licences or other estates can be granted over community land, and we should be showing how council will maintain the Crown land's objectives while issuing those leases. This generic plan does bring all the land categories together and it replaces the older tailored plans, but the focus seems to have shifted from preservation and nurturing of our community land to activation and commercial use, and it gives council more power to approve leases, events and infrastructure with less obligation for community consultation. I am worried about the increased commercialisation of our parks and bushland. This plan has weaker safeguards for biodiversity. There are fewer actions and support for bush care volunteering and fire management, and it creates easier approvals for roads, easements and utilities through green space. This plan of management should be a comprehensive management tool that champions the health and well-being of our community and the protection of our natural heritage. And because to me it remains an exercise in administrative compliance rather than genuine vision, I can't support its adoption tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Casby. Any further speakers? Councillor Bonham.
And through you, thanks to the General Manager for answering Councillor Cartwright's question. I don't think anybody should be in any doubt that Council has always acted within the law and within the spirit of the law as well in this matter. So I'm very happy to support the recommendation in the business paper tonight, and it's very encouraging to see that what's been a very long process has finally reached a very good conclusion. I would also like genuinely to compliment the staff who've been involved with this plan of management. Work behind the scenes is often invisible, but the care, the organisation and the professionalism shown throughout the process is very visible in the outcome that we're looking at tonight. In particular, I think Council showed good judgment by engaging the services of a consultant to make sure that they were moving in the right direction, and that meant reducing the risk of having to revisit decisions later, helping to avoid waste of resources that can happen when work moves ahead without proper preparation. Council took community feedback seriously, and what was presented to the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure must have been pretty near perfect, because it came back to Council with very, very few minor amendments required. That reflects the understanding and the careful compliance that this Council has of the relevant legislation and the practical way it continues to translate those duties into decisions that serve our residents well. Again, I congratulate all the management and staff involved in the outcome presented to us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question through you to Councillor Cartwright. I was a little bit confused by her comments of not supporting this motion. I just wanted to ask, does Councillor Cartwright support Minister Camper's approval of the plan of management, or not support his approval of the plan of management?
Councillor Cartwright, up to you.
No, I don't support it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cartwright, for clarifying. Madam Mayor, under 10.19 of the Code of Meeting Practice, once two councillors for and two councillors against have spoken, there's the opportunities for the motion to be put, which I'd like to progress.
So you've got a procedural motion that the motion be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Thank you. We go to carried and go Councillor Cox, your right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I definitely share Councillor Blue's frustration with this. The community is not a vocal minority. I must stress once again. I could go and visit sporting teams at local sporting fields that are overcrowded, and I could find hundreds of people to tell me that this is a great idea. I couldn't then just say, the community supports me. I spoke to a few people. That's silly. We represent the community. We talk to a lot of the community, and we know that while there are some people that are dedicating a good portion of their life to stopping this at all cost, that isn't the community. That's a group of activists that have somehow this has taken over their lives. Anyway, all the best to them, I guess. I'm very glad that Councillor Cartwright has found a Labor minister to disagree with. I just think she's got the wrong one. Some other ones that have said far worse things for the people of the Hills that she's defended. But anyway, also the plan of management, I mean, to cite, this is anything to do with Fred Cat must be bad, and anything to stop it is a good idea. And it's just part of this, like, maddening conspiracies we've had the whole way through, whether it was that 53 hectares of land were going to be bulldozed, or that somehow us trying to make rules around advertising in sports grounds was actually a conspiracy to help fund it and help Eastwood pay for it, or whatever it was, and the staff had been got to and corrupted in that process somehow, that the 7-metre fence to stop the balls going down the hill was actually to keep the public out. Also, one I've just realised now is the Pony Club wasn't elite and private enough to be opposed when it was there, but the rugby club that involves far more community members is or was, depending on whether that ever happens. There's a critically endangered platypus there. No, it's a snail. No, it's an owl. No, back to the snail. Now we're hearing about a black glossy cockatoo. And just the hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been wasted in dealing with what I consider perhaps an abuse of the Freedom of Information request, legal challenges, and something I've experienced lately, bad faith correspondence to staff and councillors asking questions or pushing them on the issue just to get a response they want to twist and turn into some sort of conspiracy. Anyway, I reiterate that I'm very appreciative of Minister Camper standing up to the mob and standing up to the madness and seeing through it and expediting this and getting it done. And I'm happy to be putting the motion forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on item 5, Minister for Lands and Property Consent to adopt generic plan of management Crown Community Land. We've got a motion made by Councillor Cox and seconded by Councillor Blue that point 1, as in the business paper, be adopted, plus point 2, that the Mayor write to the Minister for Lands and Property, Minister for Multiculturalism, Minister for Sport, Minister for Jobs and Tourism, the Honourable Steve Camper MP, expressing Council's appreciation for this effort to have the POM expedited after months of delay. All those in favour say aye. Those against, it's carried. We have a division called. Thank you, councillors. Councillor asks you to vote on your keypads, please.
All votes are in, Madam Mayor.
All votes are in. It is carried. And for the tape recording proceedings of tonight's meeting, I will read the way each councillor voted. Voting in favour of the motion is Councillor Blue, Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cox, Councillor Gratsieva, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Jetty, Councillor Severage, and myself, Mayor Dr. Byrne. And voting against the motion is Councillor Cartwright and Councillor Casby. It's carried. Thank you, councillors. Will you move to item 6, Hillshire Plan 2025/26, review number 3, Councillor Jackson.
Move the motion as per the business paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Jetty. Councillor Jackson, you wish to speak to your motion?
Kind of threw me off on that one, let me just find the right page. Madam Mayor, we have a great opportunity in these meetings to be able to reflect and review the Hillshire Plan that was adopted not too long ago, 2025 being last year. And not very often do you get the chance to, like we do quarterly, to be able to review our progress of how we're progressing according to the plan. And I really like and enjoy the opportunity to be able to stand up and look at how we're performing. We've had a number of occasions where we've talked about transparency, we've talked about accountability, we've talked about the community having exposure to how we're progressing and essentially how we're serving them. I really like the way that this is also set out, in that it talks about our visions and values, breaks down our values into the strategic directions, and then goes on to present the performance summaries against each of those strategic directions. And I was very happy to see that for nearly all of them, we either have completed or are on track with what we have promised the community as part of those plans. I note in there that there is a couple of them, especially when it comes to approval of DAs, where we haven't quite met the particular target, but I think the context provided on each of those items, for example, on page 451 of the business paper, it addresses the development assessments and the certifications. Madam Mayor, as we've talked about a lot in our meetings, the Hills has a absolutely significant number of DAs and other similar items that we review that, based on how close we are to the particular target and the sheer volume that our team has to deal with, I think we're doing an absolutely amazing job. What I've reflected on multiple times in this chamber is that DAs aren't the same as what they were previously. You know, if someone was proposing something that was completely aligned with all of the rules, they'll just go through a CDC, get that sorted out, rather than coming to council for them, and essentially we don't have to assess them. The ones that are coming more to us are the complicated ones. So rather than a mix of all, now we're getting the complicated and obviously the larger ones around planning proposals and other things. And despite the system changing and the easier ones moving on, we still have a significant number that we have to consider. And I think an amazing team that has been able to achieve what they've been able to achieve, especially when we look at our numbers of staff compared to other councils. I don't want to focus a huge amount specifically on those DAs, but for the community, it is important to know and have the opportunity to see what we're working on, what we're delivering, what we're meeting, what we're on track for, and certain action areas required, and the justification around why they're required and what we're actually doing about it. So I'm proud to be able to stand up here and support the review, and proud to say that of all the time that I've been on council, both this term and my previous term, we have been really consistent when it comes to delivery for our community, despite the many challenges that we face. One last one in here, and I know that we've had comments from other councils and councillors. It talks about proactive leadership and governance, and many reflect on how well our meetings run, despite us being from different parties and having different passions and focuses from addressing things within the community. I think on the whole, Madam Mayor, that we are a council that is modelled on good governance and appropriate behaviour also within the chamber, and that it's nice to know that many other areas are not just jealous of the way that we perform, what we deliver, but also the work that has been done to keep as much money in the bank for us to be able to deliver what's essential for the community, and even in some other circumstances, lend money to the state government to be able to undertake that. So I support this strongly, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further speakers? Councillor Gottseva.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it won't be enough 5 minutes to list of the early progress and all quarter-free achievements, but I'll try to highlight the most interesting one. So, quarter-free progress report demonstrates enormous amount of work being delivered across the Hill Shire and highlights importance of continuous investments that we're receiving from the state government to support our growing infrastructure and service needs. So this quarter alone, as Councillor Jackson already mentioned about DAs, we determined 288 development applications, so plus assessed, so together it 886 development application assessed and developed. As well, significant progress continues on major infrastructure projects across the Shire. Water lane reserve construction is progressing well, with new turf now laid on playground fields and amenity buildings in progress. Once completed in December 26, site will become a major sporting and recreation precinct for our community. as well as Anthony's Cart Reserve in the Box Hill. Stage 1 works are nearing completion and will deliver a new community center, satellite library, youth playground, expanded recreation space for local families. Council also commenced construction of 2 additional netball courts at Wellgate Avenue, North Kellyville. Sports field lighting upgrades has been done at Glenhaven Oval and Annan Grove Park. Major road and intersection upgrades happened across the Shire. Importantly, many of these projects are supported by state government funding and partnerships. So first, this review on page 443, talking about council successfully secured some funds to address the Box Hill contribution plan funding gap. Approximately 16 million in accelerated infrastructure funding for Box Hill, and further 11 million through state voluntary planning agreement and special infrastructure contributions. Second, state government road safety funding for various roads across the Shire. Then NSW Environmental Protection Authority Waste Solution Fund to undertake circular flow investigation at the Hawkesbury Waste Management Facility. Then 25-26 flood plain management program grant funding, the straightened flood resilience. And finally, 25 grants in heritage grant funding to support the review of Shire-wide heritage strategy. So this support is crucial in helping council deliver roads, sporting fields, drainage, open spaces, community facilities needed to rapidly expanding community. So this quarter also highlighted council growing use of technology and innovation. Council's AI voice assistant, Casey, has already handled more than 2,000 customer inquiries relating to rate and helping improve customer service efficiency. As well, AI-powered safety cameras were installed at Bella Vista Public School and North Kellyville Public School. Heavy vehicle monitoring AI cameras were also activated in Bannerman Road and Bluegum Road to enforce load limits and reduce road damage and repair cost. Council is also taking important steps in environmental planning and resilience. This quarter, Council adopted Climate Change Adaptation Action Plan designed to strengthen resilience to flooding, bushfires, urban heat, and drought conditions. Council also commenced water quality monitoring across 8 waterways, with ongoing monitoring now focused on areas impacted by construction runoff. So finally, I want to acknowledge the work of council staff who continue to deliver major infrastructure, community services, innovation projects, while maintaining strong financial discipline and customer service performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grazeva. Any further speakers? Councillor Casby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to echo what Councillor Jackson said. It's a really good chance to stand up and review all the things that have been achieved, many of which we can't keep track of because there's so many as councillors. So thank you, officers, for this plan. There's a lot to be proud of here. I have just picked out a few that I thought maybe other councillors might not mention. We've heard some great ones already. But all of Council's departments can be proud. There's been some really great progress across many of the areas, good outcomes and achievements made amongst all the day-to-day work that Council does. I was really pleased to see on page 435 actions regarding community resilience to shocks and stresses such as floods, bushfire and urban heat. Really pleased to see Council has adopted a climate change adaptation action plan developed in response to a climate change risk assessment undertaken by senior staff. I think this is a really worthwhile and responsible action, and I commend Council on this. It will strengthen Council's capacity, it will help our community to adapt to a changing climate and improve resilience. And following on from that, it's also great to see Council working with the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water on the Drought Preparedness and Water Efficiency Program. And great to hear that a practical roadmap has been developed when we do get a El Nino, where Council can reduce our water use and be more resilient during drought conditions. And then I really love the Get Grubby program. It's now free for educators in the Hills. It's great that our kids have access to hands-on learning about composting, worm farming, recycling, saving water, growing food and exploring nature. And our waste management and resource team has run some really great sustainability-focused community activities. So toys, books, clothing swaps among them. And I believe that there is an upcoming repair fair coming on the 20th of June, which sounds really exciting. So these are great to see happening in the Hills. And a big one, which Councillor Blue probably will mention as well, that Council has also started water quality monitoring in 8 sites across the Shire. This is a massive step in the right direction to making sure we're monitoring the health of and looking after our waterways and the ecosystems and the wildlife that depend on them, like our platypus. I can't wait to hear more about Council's art and culture strategy later this year, and there's lots and lots of other great initiatives. So thank you again to Council staff, and this is a great Q3 Hillshire Plan review.
Thank you, Councillor Casby. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in the awkward position of agreeing with Councillor Casby again, but no. I did want to get up and thank the staff and let them know part of my thanks to them is I won't extend this meeting by another 5 minutes telling them how good they are. I suggest other councillors consider that. They know they've done a great job.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Any further speakers? Councillor Blue.
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Casby sort of stole the bit I was going to talk about, but there's plenty of other good things to talk about in here, and one that I've just opened up, and it was timely because it was involved something I did today, but I called into Ted Horwood Reserve this morning and I met with the seniors alive and kicking team who are over 60s and play once a week down at Ted Horwood Reserve. I think the oldest player there is 76, and they have a great kick around, a real good social event, and their numbers are climbing. They're now at 36 within their little club, if you like to call it. So, Madam Mayor, I think that it's great as a council we're supporting all residents of all ages, all abilities and all interests, and I think that this quarterly report really does go to show just the magnitude of things that this council are involved in, the successes we continue to deliver, and as Councillor Jackson said in detail, we're ticking the boxes and heading in the right direction in many areas. So, Madam Mayor, I congratulate the staff on what they've done and continue to strive for better things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Jackson, your right of reply.
Madam Mayor, in contrast to Councillor Cox, I'm more than happy to stand up for an extra 5 minutes and tell council staff how amazing they are. I don't think that they get told enough. I think it's a challenging job working in any level of government, and a lot of the time it's thankless work, and unfortunately a lot of the time the focus is on the negatives that have occurred, and some of the more challenging work that they're working on, rather than having as much of an opportunity to reflect on the positive stuff. We as a council body have the opportunity to sit here and benefit from all of the fantastic reports that are put together, reviews, summaries, that happens tirelessly in the background from the staff. So the only reason we have the luxury to be able to stand up here and be as comfortable as we are is because of the work from staff at all levels within the organisation. And on my last reflection on the report itself, I was very excited to see the picture on page 457 of the staff member on Council's customer service counter, with a great smile on her face, and I'm sure she's very engaging, to kind of promote and showcase the staff, especially those that interact face to face with our community every single day, that give us the positive reviews that we're happy to stand up here and celebrate. Madam Mayor, it's great to be able to hear from all of the councillors and in their absolute support for this review. And I think everything in this review is a testament to the work that we're doing and the innovative thinking and also the consideration, as reported by the General Manager in his statements at the beginning of the report, of our 200,000 plus residents, but also the doubling of that within the Shire and what's required and necessary for that to actually occur is always some tough decisions, but a great machinery behind us to be able to deliver that. So I hope that we get unanimous support for this review and everything contained in it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. On item 6, Hillshire Plan 2025/26 review number 3, got a motion moved by Councillor Jackson and seconded by Councillor Jetty. The recommendation contained in the report be adopted. All those in favour say aye. Those against, it's carried. We've got 2 for a division. Thank you, councillors. You can be seated. Councillors, if you can now vote on your keypads, please.
I think you can do it. through the wonders of modern technology. All votes are
All
in.
votes are in. That motion is carried. It is unanimous. But for the tape recording proceedings, I will read the names of the councillors that voted in favour. Councillor Blue, Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cartwright, Councillor Cox, Councillor Casby, Councillor Gretzeva, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Jetty, Councillor Severage and myself, Mayor Dr Byrne, with no councillors voting against. Thank you, councillors. Meeting closed 9:01. Thank you, councillors, council officers and members of the public. Good night.
Thank you, Madam